Welcome to Treble the Trouble with your hosts, crochet designers Faye, Helen, and Vicky.
Hello and welcome back for our second episode of Treble the Trouble. This month we are talking about inspiration. So where do we get our inspiration as crochet designers? So that could be things like stuff you see in your everyday life, or even stuff that we find on the internet. So I'm going to hand over to Helen and ask you first, where do you get your inspiration from for crochet design?
Everywhere, really. It depends on the moment. When my son was small, it was a case of, Mum, can you make me this? And that was one of the main things. I remember we saw something online and he had 10p in his hot, sticky little hand. He was about 2.5 at the time. And he said, can you buy that for me, Mum? So it was a crochet blanket. I ended up making him one, and it's now a free pattern on the website. That's a crayon blanket. Fast forwarding quite a few years, one of my students was a big source of inspiration, because she used to come in and say, my son wants one of these. I need to make it. And I'd say, have you got a pattern? Well, I thought you could do one for me.
Yeah.
So that is where, first of all, the tiger blanket came from, and later on the penguins.
You mean these penguins?
Yes, I mean those penguins.
Just for the record, I'm not the student that asked for this pattern. Helen sent me the penguin kit so that I could do a separate video for the YouTube channel, and I haven't got round to it yet.
So, yeah, but I particularly like doing things to do with natural stuff. You can see behind me various flowers. I've got the wall hangings and things. It's nature provides so much inspiration.
Is it a similar story with you, Vicky?
Yeah, kind of. I think the first thing I ever designed was because I could see in my head what I wanted and I couldn't find a pattern. And it was inspired by flowers and wanting to combine lots of different flowers. And the colour inspiration was from Kath Kidston. She puts colours together so beautifully, and this was a few years ago. And I just had to put those colours together myself. But also, I mean, old tapestry bags, those old vintage floral paintings that you see in the gorgeous, really old gilded frames. I love those. But it's like Helen says, you see it everywhere. You have to have a notebook with you all the time, or your phone to make notes on, and a notebook by your bed, because you just have to catch it, that idea, before it's gone.
This is the wonderful thing about modern technology. You see something and you think, that would look amazing crocheted, and you can take a picture of it.
Yeah, I did that on a beach once. I accosted a woman who was wearing a top that was a really interesting construction and draped so beautifully that I kind of got closer and closer to her until I could say, I really, really, really like your jumper. Please, could I take a photo of it? And she was confused, but agreed. And, you know, that's what you do.
I've done that to customers who have come in the shop.
Yeah.
They aren't quite so confused.
I haven't quite got there yet, but I have taken photographs of various types of clothing in supermarkets and high street stores.
Yes.
It's great fun accosting people in the street and saying, I love your top. Can I take a picture, please?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd have the confidence to do that.
But I think people would take it as a compliment. So, you know, maybe if you see it, you're not accosting someone really, you're offering them a lovely compliment. They look fantastic.
Yeah, you do have to tell them how nice they look first, you know.
Yes.
Just lay it on thick. They're normally so amused by all the compliments that they can't say no.
That's a good plan. That's a good plan. I mean, so far for me, the first stages of inspiration actually have come from you, Helen, when you've got a new yarn in and you go, I'm going to send you one ball of this yarn. You need to make something from this one ball of yarn, nothing more, this one ball of yarn. So my early stages of crochet design actually came as a result of you sending me random balls of stuff like this scarf that I was wearing, but it got too hot. But yeah, this was a one ball pattern, which actually went live on as a video pattern on YouTube, on our YouTube channel in January.
Cool.
It's not just from things that you see. It's you saw my yarn bowl last month, and you see this gorgeous yarn, you just have to stroke it, and then you have to buy it, and then you wait for it to tell you what it wants to be.
Yes.
And sometimes you just get an idea that comes into your head and you think, I know what I can use that for. And so it's you don't always get an idea and then go and buy the yarn.
The yarn for this top, I bought the yarn before even knowing what it was going to be. The Sirdar colour wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a granny square top. And I had the ball of yarn for ages before I even knew what to do with it.
That happens a lot. I mean, I've got new stuff in that tells me what it wants to be straight away. And then some of that stuff in the bowl has been in there for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that isn't all down to the fact that I don't know what I want to do with it. It's the fact that I opened a shop and haven't had time to think about what to do with it.
But don't you find you have so many ideas? We don't have enough years left to design every single idea we have. It's just that some of them float to the surface more quickly or more efficiently or more easily. So what's your latest inspiration, Helen?
My latest one I'm currently working on, this has been a long time coming. I did 3 cowls a few years back. Secret Garden was immensely popular. I did another 2 afterwards which weren't so popular, and I kind of lost heart, but I've always had this idea in the back of my mind. I mean, Faye will tell you, we were discussing it years ago when I went down to Rochester, long before I opened the shop, and I wanted to do a pirate themed one.
So where did that idea come from?
I don't know. I mean, you know, it's just like...
I think it came from some of the conversations in the Secret Garden
Quite possibly.
group, because they wanted something for boys. So the idea came around at about the same time as Space Odyssey, but Space Odyssey came first.
Yeah, the things I did Secret Garden. Now, I'm not saying that these designs are gender specific, okay? We all know that boys like flowers and girls like space rockets.
Oh,
right?
yeah, definitely.
But it is a general thing that, you know, they do go more for one gender than the other.
There are so many designs out there for little girls, whether you're looking at garments or toys or blankets. They are aimed in a gender specific way. It's not that everyone can't enjoy them, but that pink rose print thing is definitely meant for a baby girl, and there's so much less out there that's either neutral or for boys.
I've never specifically aimed these at one or the other.
Yeah.
Right? They are aimed at what I like.
Yep.
You know, stars, space and things, that's fascinated me. You know, how many times have you just led in a field in the middle of summer watching the stars?
Yeah, we do that with our rocket scientist daughter.
Yeah. So I did Secret Garden, which was more girly.
Pretty.
I did Space Odyssey, which was more for boys. I did Kiss Me Quick. Now, to me, that isn't gender specific at all. That is beach themed, and that would go for either. But
Yeah.
a lot of people see that more girl, right? I can't see why, but a lot of people think that's more girly. I had one of my students was saying that she's got 2 boys and 2 girls. They are grown up, but she wants one for each of them. So I had to think of another one that was a bit more boy themed. And that is where the pirates came from. And then it was a case of mulling it over and thinking about what I was going to do. Now, sometimes people will say to me, oh, you should do so-and-so. And I say, okay, I'll think about it. And most people, when they say, okay, I'll think about it, it's to put them off. When I say, okay, I think about it, I will go home and think about it. You know, I don't tend to write the designs and things down. They run around in my head until they're ready to come out.
Yes.
That one has been ready to come out for a couple of years, but I didn't have the time to do anything with it. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do. It never happens quite like that. It tends to evolve as I'm making it, which this one definitely has. I've actually got another 3 on the list to be getting on with. One of them was inspired by the cafe that used to be next door to the shop called Hatters. And it was all decorated with Alice in Wonderland stuff. I'll rephrase that. It wasn't. Alice in Wonderland is Disney and we are not allowed to do it, right? It was all decorated with Alice's Adventures in Wonderland stuff. So my blanket will be based on the Lewis Carroll book, not on the Disney film. However, having that cafe next door to me, not that I used to go in there a lot. Yeah, okay, I used to go in there a lot. But there was all this stuff all around and I just thought, I got to do an Alice one. So the next one on the list is Wonderland, and that has actually been started, but it needs to be restarted because of I need different yarn to do it. There's only 2 squares of it done, and I've had a better idea for them as well. So
that happens, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It does. Okay, so Vicky, how do you organise your various things of inspiration? How do you go about organising your ideas?
Well, I used to have about 100 notebooks spread around the house, never in the right place when I wanted them, often with bits of yarn or little swatches that I'd started. And I've now managed to corral them all, and I have bought myself a folder with dividers and numbers, and each project has its own little space, whether it's just an idea that's written down or there's more done to it, so that I can go back, because you never have just one on the go.
No.
And you need somewhere to record. Some ideas come to you that actually you can see the first motif and you know exactly what that's going to look like. So you have to make it, and then you need somewhere to keep those notes and that motif. Others, it's just you think, oh, those colours look nice together, or I wonder what that would look like if it was crocheted. All those ideas are now together in one place.
I have to say that is exceptionally well organised. That is far too organised for me.
I've made it sound much better than it is, because I do have a basket that's filled with sheets of, you know, the loose leaf paper that you pull out to put in folders. It's kind of filled with lots of those that might not have been put in the folder yet.
Okay.
And the truth will out.
The system is in place, but unfortunately, the administrative assistant is not really doing all her filing on time.
I see. That sounds a bit better.
Yes. It's a great idea.
I tend to, you can see on the shelf behind me that way. There's some baskets there. So the advantages of having a yarn shop means you've got the yarn to hand. So if you've got an idea, you can actually sort out the yarn, put it all in a basket, and the yarn is there.
Let the idea percolate.
Yes. However, when you have a bookshelf over there that you can't see, that has like 6 different baskets with 6 different collections of yarn, and there's 3 more down behind my chair with stuff in bags. Yeah.
Which is more organised than me. I need to step up my game.
No, but don't you think actually we need a little chaos and untidiness? We do need to be able to see yarn, and we need to be able to throw it around and grab the one that's at the bottom of the basket. I think if I'm too tidy and too organised, I kind of block a little bit.
Yeah, it's not being untidy, it's having ideas lying around everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, UFOs, aren't they? They're just unfinished objects.
Yeah.
Well, there's lots of things. There's whips, which is work in progress. A favourite American one, which I can't say I've used, although I have done it, is a pig.
Okay, you're going to have to tell us what pig is, because I've not heard that one.
Haven't you? Project in grocery bag.
Love it. That is brilliant. Yeah,
You've got a few of those, haven't you? Yes.
I've got lots of pigs.
So you have whips and whims, which is works in mind.
Oh, I have pips.
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 Yeah.
Project progress.
Right.
Ah.
The UFOs tend to be more the stuff that belongs in the bucket.
Yeah, the bucket that we can't give it its full name on a YouTube video.
But
That's
it right.
the one.
Yeah. But that's things like adding a border or sewing in the ends, isn't it, really? Or finishing the last sleeve.
So it's not so much stuff like that. That is more UFOs that need finishing off rather than projects that are on the go. But the sort of stuff that goes in the bucket is stuff that you've started, and for one reason or another it's not worked out, it's not gone right, the tension's out, the stitches don't work, so you throw it in the bucket.
You see, you would frog that.
Well, sometimes I frog it, other times I'll go back to it, frog a bit of it, and it works.
Right.
So I don't frog stuff straight away that hasn't worked out.
No, that's probably a good idea.
It just, because sometimes you just have a mental block.
Yes.
So you need to go back to it when you're fresh, and sometimes you'll be lying there in the middle of the night and you think, that's what I should do.
Yeah. And that's why you should always have a notebook next to your bed.
Yes.
Or your mobile phone.
Yeah. One of the things that I've learned, speaking of kind of being blocked and needing to walk away from things, do you do like thinking with your hands? So I literally will just make something with granny squares or granny stripes. I've got a couple of projects on the go, blankets that use yarn subscription clubs, so I get mini skeins every month, and they are just basic granny square stitches, nothing exciting. But if I sit for half an hour doing that and I've been feeling like I've lost my design mojo or I can't figure out a certain design, if I do that, it just works. It helps me figure it out. It's like, I think it's crochet meditation, really.
Yeah, it is. If I'm having a block, I will always grab one of my little balls of yarn and I will sit and make granny squares, and I'll just work through it.
It's not something I really tend to do. I think that I will go and do something totally different.
Right.
Not crochet at all, just something totally different.
Would it
Even
still be
if
a
it's
craft?
Not always. I mean, you know, tease the dog for half an hour. I mean,
I don't have a dog. I could tease the kids, I suppose.
that works.
I agree, it would work.
I used to do that. But yeah, you know, if I'm getting really frustrated at something, it's something totally different. Go out, make a cuppa, weather permitting, go in the garden for half an hour, you know, do a bit of weeding or whatever. Just get away from it all completely.
By which time you've probably had another 100 ideas that you need to jot down because you've been outside in nature.
Yes.
and the ideas start.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. Do you find inspiration from other types of crafts? So not just looking at all those crochet things in your timeline, you get inspiration from other sources.
I try really hard not to look at other crochet projects. If I've got a vague idea, I don't look at other crochet projects because you're too tempted to either copy them or you're very conscious of the fact that you don't want to copy them. You know, it's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you want a blanket and you want something a little bit different, go and have a look at a quilt. This one here.
Is that a bookshelf?
Yeah, it's a quilt.
But in the style of a bookshelf?
Yes. So this one is another quilt. And what I make won't look exactly like this, but that is a idea that will work for something.
So that thing that you're pulling those bits off of, is that a vintage Pinterest board?
Less of the vintage.
Oh, it's like 30 years old, so it's vintage.
Brilliant.
No.
Is
For all the young people that are watching the show, that's the original Pinterest board.
original? Yes, not vintage.
It's so last century though.
Yeah, but the thing about the original is that you can actually touch little bits of wool or fabric or ribbon or thread.
What I actually do is I've only printed those off for this. It's pictures that I see on the internet. Sometimes you see adverts. So this one is from an advert on Facebook. It's a stained glass sun catcher, and I just think that would look so amazing crocheted into a big ring, like a mandala type thing.
That would be gorgeous.
I am so got to do this as a wall hanging. I'm not quite sure that you can actually see what it says. It's probably just as well, actually.
That's very much in the humour of our oldest, the kind of t-shirt he wears.
I actually bought Heather a mug for Christmas with that on it.
Yes.
You see, something like this would make really good tapestry crochet.
Yeah.
Because you can do the black bits in black and you can use thread painting to shade the background. I so have to have this to hang up in the shop.
That's brilliant.
But that is just some of the stuff that I've saved when I've been browsing anywhere. And as you can see, not one thing on that board is crocheted.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there are other things, like I've taken pictures of brick walls because there's stuff that would make good backgrounds or whatever, and the textures and the ideas and the colours.
Yeah, tiled floors, backsplashes in kitchens. When you see those gorgeous house magazines and someone got the most amazing tiled wall in their kitchen.
Or when somebody sends you a picture of an old Roman tiled floor and says, do you fancy a challenge?
Oh, Faye did that, did she?
Yes. And it was partially submerged with the sea. The tide was coming up onto it, so you could only see part of it.
See all of it.
No, it actually looks really nice. I had one of my other friends, she's been crocheting. She started crocheting before lockdown, but she did get into it a lot more sort of since. She went somewhere or other and sent me a load of photographs on her phone and said, I saw this tiled floor. This would make an amazing blanket.
Yeah. I've got a really gorgeous scarf that my mother-in-law gave me years ago, and it's woven. It's more of a wrap than a scarf, and it's woven, but it's like little squares and octagons and all interlinked. It's absolutely gorgeous, and every time I put it on, I think, one day this is going to be crocheted. One day.
Yeah. The thing is, when you're working out stuff like that, you need colours to play with.
Yes.
Now we've got, you can see here, these are magnetic ones, and it's the full range of colours on these little magnetic strips.
Or these work pretty well. If
lolly sticks.
Yeah, with the little bits of each yarn colour wrapped around, which is what I had before I got the magnetic strip.
I have a jar here.
Oh, lovely.
And it's full of mini skeins. So it literally just has, I make a little mini skein. When I'm using colours, I make a little mini skein, and then you can just, they've got the colours written on the top.
Yeah.
But you can just lay them out sort of the same way as you use your lolly sticks.
Yeah.
So when you're using colours, these are much easier, because if you collect your colours, if you stick to a particular brand and you collect your colours as you go in either your lolly sticks or mini skeins, or somebody else uses pegs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even those little windy embroidery thread cardboard bobbins that you get, just something that keeps them.
Yeah. But I just use a CD to do these. They're so easy to make. I will show you another time when we're talking about designing a bit more. I can show you how to make the mini skeins, and they're really easy to make. And then you don't need all the extra accessories for it. You just need some little swing tags. That's what I've used. You can see. Just
really lovely when you're coming to take photographs of your project as well, to have lots of mini skeins like that.
Yeah,
I have one of those, but it's in storage.
I have various ones for different yarns, but over the years I've changed the brands of yarn that I use, and so I have to start collecting again. I'm just going to be starting with the Hayfield DK. Did you know they got 100 different colours in it now?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Wait till lockdown's over. That's something else you can come and play with.
Looking forward to it.
If we're really lucky after lockdown, we'll be able to do a Treble the Trouble all in the same place.
Yeah, wow. In the shop.
Yes. That could be interesting. We'd spend all our time stroking yarn.
Yeah, that's true.
Object that though, would they? Described it.
I think that actually might make an episode all of itself.
Yes.
Yarn petting.
Yarn petting. Yes.
Yeah, I like that. So, are there other places that you draw inspiration from?
I like antique books.
Why do you like antique books?
Because they're amazing. You know, they just, some of the stuff they used to do. There's a lesson here in Irish crochet, okay? This book is, this one here was written in 1912. And I think, I wouldn't swear to it, I can find out for you. So this one followed not long afterwards. This is called The Craft of the Crochet Hook. Now, these books are part of what was or became known as the Home Art series. We'll cover these later on because
we're
going to be doing an episode on history at some point. And there's stuff in these that doesn't happen now. Patterns are written so totally different. It says here, there's a lesson in plain crochet. And it says, the best way to take the lesson is to procure a rather coarse crochet hook. Number 4 will suit. That's roughly a 1 millimeter.
Wow.
And a ball of coarse crochet cotton, such as Ardennes number 20. Now, number 10 is what we would normally use as crochet cotton nowadays, commonly known as bedspread weight. But this is a coarse crochet hook and coarse cotton.
Please tell me it tells you to have a really suitable gas light or candle so that you can see what you're doing.
No, it doesn't actually say stuff like that. Yeah, this is why these books are so amazing. But
that's a whole other episode.
Yeah. I love watching design and art programs. Sky Arts has recently come onto Freeview channels, which is what we've got, and they have a landscape artist competition, a portrait artist competition. There's a new interior design program coming onto the BBC. I just absorb those because you see all the ideas from different people, the way they put colour and pattern together, their thought processes, even the things that don't work can be inspirational. And I don't know where else I would get so many other people's ideas.
yes,
The portrait and landscape programs are really lovely.
so are the gardening ones.
Yes.
You get, sometimes you see something that somebody does when designing a garden, and you just think, wow, I could crochet that.
Yes.
Something a little bit more modern. One of my favourite books, one that I tend to tell all my students to get. You can see various bookmarks. There are 2 bookmarks in that one as well. This is really good when you've got an idea for something but you're not quite sure what stitch to use.
Yeah.
Or you want to play with some different stitches. And there are literally, as it says, hundreds of crochet stitches.
Yeah.
What I love about this book and why it's particularly good for students, have a really good close-up picture of the finished crocheted stitch of a swatch. You have a written pattern. It is written not quite as modern because these books are quite old now, 1986. So they're not exactly modern books. They are better than some of the modern ones. And then you get a stitch diagram. So it's good for teaching because you've got all 3 and you can teach your students to read the stitch diagram as well as reading the pattern.
And then match it up to the swatch.
Yeah. And when you do stuff like that, if you can read these stitch patterns, I have books on my bookshelf that are in Japanese and I can't understand a word of them. But they've got stitch diagrams in them. So I can make every single thing that's in them.
Yeah.
That's something else that I use for inspiration. It's just art.
Art.
I mean,
It's seeing art everywhere.
yes.
possibility
it's when I'm talking about art, I'm talking about classical, you know, the classics. I'm not so much into Rembrandt and stuff like that, but Monet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Van Gogh, right?
Mhm.
Do we say Van Gogh or do we say Van Gogh? I can
Van
never
Gogh.
remember. We say
It's Van
Van Gogh,
Gogh.
do we? I love Starry Night. Those who know me know that I actually have a few copies of it around the place in various guises. The most recent one was a jigsaw puzzle that is now on my bedroom wall as a picture. You see, inspiration just doesn't have to be for crochet. And this is glass fusing. I went on a glass workshop. This is actually, you put a tea light behind it.
And it glows.
Yeah, if you see how it's shaped. One day I will crochet that.
I look forward to seeing it.
Yes.
So do I. I mean, modern day inspiration tends to come a lot more from your computer, from things like Pinterest.
Yeah, I have managed to lose several hours just scrolling through Pinterest.
I'll be honest, I don't go on there anymore.
I do, but very rarely now. But in the early days, I'd have an idea and I'd go, I need some reference pictures, and I would go onto Pinterest and put in a search of whatever I was looking for. So I have actually got several secret boards with reference pictures for inspiration.
Now that is my file that I've got on the computer. I don't save them on places like Pinterest. I put them, I download the picture and put it on my computer.
Yeah.
Depending on what I'm looking for at the time. I have a load of lacy lingerie on there from when I was designing, because I designed a lingerie set. So I was just looking at some of the more common things, that the more popular designs, but they weren't, none of them were crocheted, you know, it was all sort of net and lace and stuff, and it sort of stemmed from there. As I said, all of this on this board are in my folder. One of the other things I quite like is Celtic knots.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And I'm trying to work out, that's what this one is for.
Trying to work out how to replicate it as crochet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a bit mind-boggling, yes. I'm thinking possibly something big rather than small, because it would be too intricate small. Possibly cables and raised stitches.
Yes. Okay, I can now see that.
Yeah.
So
a lot of patience required though to figure it out.
yes, I love doing cables.
Yeah.
My students say it's a swear word, but I love them. We have somewhere a thing that says the difficulty chart. I've got it as rainbows. So it's 1 rainbow, 2 rainbows, 3 rainbows, or 4 rainbows. The first one is the official thing. The second one is one that one of my students wrote, and then another friend wrote the third one, because that's the designer's point of view of what the different stages are.
My favourite is it's only double crochet.
Basically they'd say to me, how difficult is that? And I'd look at it and I'd say, that's easy, it's only double crochet. But then what they don't realize is micromatus is only double crochet.
Yeah.
You know, my wall hangings are only double crochet. I love double crochet, you could do so much with it. Possibly one of my favorite stitches, possibly my favourite of all time stitches because it's so versatile.
And is the basis for most of your patterns.
It is. But yeah, you know, they look at it and they say, oh, that looks difficult. No, it's only double crochet. And it got to the stage where somebody'd say something, and before I was able to get a word in edgeways, the whole of the class would have chimed in and said, no, it's only double crochet.
Oh, brilliant.
The only thing that I thought of as we were talking, I've actually started sending images home to myself from work. My day job is in a publishing company, and part of my job is looking at book cover designs. So I put together the cover designs for our authors. I put the brief together and pass it to the designer, but I have to give them reference covers. So these are the covers currently trending in a particular genre, or these are the covers that particularly fit this book. And I have days where I see so many beautiful, fantastically done designs, whether it's the colour or the shapes or the way the font works with it. I've had to set up a new file on my computer because I have to keep sending them home to keep, because one day they're going to be designed.
So actually, inspiration really is everywhere.
It really is.
Definitely. Yeah. If you're of an artistic leaning, you will see inspiration in anything.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what it is, you will find something in it and think, I've got to do that.
So that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
It does.
So basically, keep your eyes open all the time.
Yeah. And don't be scared to take pictures. I mean, obviously, certain times you have to ask permission to do it. So don't be intrusive. As in, ask permission first. And if somebody says no, don't do it.
Yeah.
But I said 9 times out of 10, well, actually 99 times out of 100, if you've complimented somebody on something they're wearing, they'll let you take a picture.
Yeah. We hope you've really enjoyed today's episode about inspiration. Next month, we are going to be talking about Treble the Trouble with reading patterns, and we very much hope you'll join us.
If you've enjoyed today's video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets us know that you've liked it. Click subscribe so that you can get notifications of new videos. Don't forget to click the bell as well. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing Helen and Vicky in our next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. This video has been made possible thanks to Unravel and Unwind Patreon supporters. You too can become a patron for as little as £3.60 a month. To subscribe, visit www.patreon.com/